Just a disclaimer, all footage, music, and sound effects belong to their respective owners and is used in the video for the purpose of entertainment. Thank you, now onto the video. The Beatles were one of, if not the biggest rock group in the last 60 plus years. In that time, they put out 13 hit albums with songs considered some of the greatest songs written in the history of music. However, their time was cut short due to the infighting and growing resentment between the band members, leading to their breakup in 1970. The Beatles' official last album to be released was Let It Be, but it was however not the last album to be recorded. That would be the album that came before, known as Abbey Road, which will have its own video in the future. Anyways, I am the Music Dude, and today I am reviewing the Beatles' first album, Please Please Me. Hello and welcome to the first ever video of this series known as Music Through the Years, and the first video of my brand new channel. Cool, this is awesome. I haven't done YouTube before, and I hope this is gonna be a really fun experience. This time this video is released, this channel would be a few weeks old, so that's cool. Anyway, onto the Beatles and Please Please Me. Getting into the Beatles was definitely a big task that I have ever undertook in terms of music. At the time, I've never heard of them before, but I remember my grandpa really liking them. It was one of his favorite bands. In fact, I believe he has a frame of the four Beatles in their White Album / Yellow Submarine era, which is pretty awesome. I believe the first album that I've ever heard from them was Abbey Road, specifically the song Oh Darling, which I loved that song at the time because I just liked how it sounded different than what I've heard previously, because before I was listening to stuff like Taylor Swift or Alan Walker and a bunch of just popular songs that you would hear on the radio. I never had a deep interest in music for the genres or the bands. I never had I never developed that kind of interest in music until I started listening to the Beatles. From that point on, my love for music expanded beyond the Beatles. It went from it went to different artists with different decades, and ended up I've listened to a lot of albums from many different decades. I think to count last I remember, I think it would be 120 albums, which is insane on its own for a guy who's started listening to just radio songs. And those albums now, they're a lot different in genre and music. Before I just listened to rock music because it was the Beatles, they were a rock band. I only listened to rock music but just from different decades and different bands, but it had that same 60s rock feel, but then it just expanded from that. I listen to heavy metal now, pop punk, hardcore, grunge, just a lot of different genres over the decades of music. But that whole timeline of my music taste, that's a video for another day. For now, let's just get into the review of Please Please Me, the Beatles' first album. Alright, starting off the review, I would just like to give my initial thoughts after listening to this album, which I gave it a good listen about 2-3 times, just so that I get whatever I think I could come up with for a good review and a bit transformative, maybe a bit insightful, because I've never seen a lot of people review this album. It's usually the later work. I think this and with the Beatles, their second album, they're probably just there in the mention of their history, because I think they'd focus more on A Hard Day's Night and later on, because their work later on was just so much more impressive than their first two. But it doesn't mean that these first two albums were bad. They're actually pretty good for first albums. I mean, there's another band with a better debut album, but we'll talk about that band some other time. You might have an idea of who it is. If you know, you can comment down below. This album, Please Please Me, it's an alright album. It's a lot better than I remember, actually. I listened to this album maybe about early 2022, maybe even before that, yeah, it's just better than better than I thought. I remember initially skipping this album a lot, like just listening to the singles that came onto there. And for some reason, I thought From Me to You was on there, which I feel is a very Please Please Me kind of track, and I'm very upset it's not on there. If From Me to You was on there, I would consider this a really good Beatles album. Not that it isn't already good, but I just consider it really good. Like, I'd maybe put it like my top 5, top 6 at most. But it's definitely in the top 10. This album, I believe, has a kind of club feel to it, that as if you can hear the Beatles playing live. Like, it's recorded on a proper stage than a sound stage, like what they usually do for their albums, which I actually kind of like because it makes it a lot relatable in a sense. It's like you're there as the Beatles perform, which I believe was like one of their main strengths in their rise to fame, which is that they had really good gigs, which I believe is a formula for a lot of very famous bands in general. Like, their gigs were so strong. Once their debut album or EPs came out, it just exploded them into popularity. And I think, yeah, that was definitely one of the key components for them going on the rise, doing a lot of live gigs, and it's like touring in the UK and Germany. I think just between those two, I'm not sure. But yeah, tracks like I Saw Her Standing There, the opener, and Chains, Boys, Baby It's You, and of course the Culture Twist and Shout give off that energy and youth that the Beatles were well known for at their time in their gigs and concerts. It was definitely what drove a lot of people to see them, and eventually their manager Brian Epstein, who loved how the boys played and did their shows, a lot of energy to it. I would say that for this album, I think my favorite song with guitar work has definitely got to be Misery. But I felt like listening to that arpeggio at first, I thought it was gonna be a sad song. That's why I didn't initially like it at first. But then when I watched the video like about McCartney and Lennon saying that it's not a sad song despite the title, it's about a tribute to someone, I forgot the name, I thought, okay, maybe I should give it a listen again and see how it goes. So like after getting past the arpeggio, it was a pretty good song after that. While Misery might be my favorite song for its guitar work, it would definitely not be a song that I would like to play live. That privilege would have to go to the other two songs of this album, which is of course the opener, I Saw Her Standing There, and I'll Go to Him. I like playing I Saw Her Standing There just because of that really upbeat tempo, and I love playing this song on the guitar. It's so awesome. I wish I could play lead, but the lead parts aren't as interesting as I thought they would be. Maybe the solo is fine, but I just prefer playing rhythm. And there's I'll Go to Him. Again, this is just for the guitar work. I just really love the guitar work on Please Please Me. Like I've said before, it gives a club feel to it, but for me, what enhances the experience most is that it's recorded, the ones that I've heard at least, are on stereo. So this is the song section of this review. For the songs, for me at least, they kind of give off the sense of teenage love, which I'm pretty sure that a lot of us still feel or had felt, which I find pretty interesting. Which I guess makes sense because I think most of the album is love songs, which I think they've done maybe up until maybe Beatles for Sale, in like the traditional sense of love songs. The songwriting on this album, of course, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's Lennon and McCartney. What can you expect, right? I just want to talk briefly about the covers on this album, which are actually okay. I was definitely confused when I learned that some of these songs weren't actually penned by the Beatles, because they all really sound like they were in their own, like they were like the Beatles songs. They had that kind of Beatlesque feel to it. Only I realized they were some of the songs were actually covers. I can't remember the cover songs because they just really blend so well with their material that it's just amazing. I can understand why that they would need the covers. Like I remember finding it really fascinating that they needed this just so that they can help with their album sales, which I didn't expect. Well, because I thought the Beatles were an overnight success with their first album. Then I realized, then I like saw a video on their history and stuff, and then learned that it was more of a slow burn success for Please Please Me. I think they got more critical reception in maybe A Hard Day's Night or with the Beatles. I think A Hard Day's Night because of course the opening track and a couple of other songs there. Anyways, that's for the songs collectively. I'm just gonna have a quick rundown of the individual tracks. So of course with the opener, I Saw Her Standing There.
1, 2, 3.
Fun opener to the album. Anyway, as I said before, the bass of this track is just phenomenal. I know Paul didn't like bass. It was a kind of a thing that I learned when I first got into the Beatles. Paul didn't want to initially play the bass, but yet he went all out for this song. Like, this man was putting on the work. He turned the bass into a lead guitar in itself, which is pretty awesome. And the solo is fun too. I didn't expect the solo to be this fun. And again, I did not remember much of this album until I listened to it a couple days ago. So it's pretty interesting. And now moving on to Misery. I've talked a lot about Misery, but just want to add like a couple quick thoughts here that it sounds like the most sarcastic way to say that you've lost someone. Next, Anna Go Tale, track number 3. Fun song, excellent guitar work as well. For me in terms of vocals, I think this is one of my favorite early Beatles Harrison tracks. Feels satisfying to hear this song for some reason. And I especially like trying to sing the part where the harmony's coming while George is just singing his song about yearning. It's really beautiful. Next is Chains. This is definitely my favorite love song on the album. I love the piercing harmonica at the beginning. It just sells the song for me. And it just sells it even more with the kind of dance beat that this has. Makes me pop a lot to this song. The drums here are really satisfying on their own. Next is Boys. Definitely a strong beat with Ringo vocals. I think the guitar part in the back is funny here in the background. I can imagine this being performed live. I think it was mostly done if it was Ringo's turn to sing. But honestly, this song doesn't really stand out to me a lot than the other tracks on this album. Hello, yes, this is a different day. I forgot to record the review for Ask Me Why, so just be doing it quickly here. Although to be honest, I don't have much to say on this album. I think that the harmonies are just really good on this song. It feels like they're showing off, you know. But yeah, alright, next, the title track, Please Please Me. This song definitely encapsulates the album a lot. Like when the guitar goes up a chord and the harmonica parts of this album are great for films. It's a pretty good close to side 1. Again, not much to say about Please Please Me. I just think it's a great song. It's on to side 2 of this album, starting with La Me Do, their first ever single. Honestly, I think I might get flack for this, but I don't really care much for this song. I don't have much to say about it. I mean, like as a historical artifact, this song definitely was very important to the band and very impactful in music. But this song isn't for me. Like it just feels off for the rest of the album. I feel like if you could replace Love Me Do as a single by itself, and then From Me to You there instead, I think I would accept that, because I feel like Love Me Do is like quite a different feel than the rest of the album. I don't know. It's just me. It feels like a tacked on single at the last minute. I don't hate the song, but I don't love it to death either. So please don't come after me, Beatles fans. Please. Next is P.S. I Love You. I like this song's percussion. The sticks tapping on the drums was pretty good. But yeah, the burst of short harmonies that come in the song, they definitely boost my liking to this song a lot. And this is one of the songs on this album where the bridge is probably my favorite part due to the strong vocals that Paul and John give. It's just amazing. Alright, we're almost there. Next is Baby It's You. It's alright. I don't have much to say about this one either. Nice song. Oddly, it has a kind of Christmas feel to it. Don't know why. Next, Do You Know a Secret? This reminds me of a Western song for the first 12 seconds. But after that, the song changes style immediately and just goes into your, standard Beatles track. It's a nice song, excellent lead guitar work. That's pretty much all I gotta say about it. Alright, next, A Taste of Honey. I think this is just, this song feels weird. Not in like a weird way like Love Me Do is just off. It just feels weird where it just seems like it's not taking itself very seriously. Next, There's a Place. I don't have much to say about this one either. But I'm always up for a good John and Paul duet, which I think they don't do as often as I thought. The part with the line, "Don't you know that it's so," that gives me a lot of energy every time, and it's just so good. And now we come on to the closer, Twist and Shout. first up, before I get into the song, just what an odd way to close this album with such a strong song. It's such a weird closer. I would probably consider There's a Place to be a closer, but definitely not Twist and Shout. But at the same time, it kind of makes sense for it to be the closer. I don't know, in a narrative way, it just feels like they're gonna be going big from this point on. Because I think that was one of their biggest hits, Twist and Shout. That was, yeah, it was definitely one of their biggest hits, along with She Loves You. But John's roaring vocals and the cool guitar work on this song, pretty good. Twist and Shout, pretty good ending to this album.
Soundstripe.
And with that, I think this is a way to end this review. For our first album, I would say it's really decent. Side 1 was phenomenal. Like, it had banger after banger. I mean, the only thing I would probably not like as much is Boys, but still, banger after banger after banger. Whereas I think Side 2 doesn't sell me much. They're all good tracks. The whole album's pretty good. But I just think that Side 1 has more of that powerhouse of songs. I don't think Side 2 could match. Unless for me to use on there, then maybe Side 2 would have had a chance. But yeah, I think if I've done a proper review of this a lot sooner, I would have loved it because this used to be one of my favorite albums they had. But I think as I've grown, I realized that this album really does not compare much to what they do later. I mean, even as early as A Hard Day's Night, that it's already gone so far beyond Please Please Me or even Hell. It's just, and this album really doesn't compare much, especially to what albums they're gonna be making in the future. I'm pretty sure you know what albums are gonna stay tuned for those. They're coming in a couple weeks. Actually, I don't know how long. But yeah, I think what holds this album back from being like really super great is that the Beatles are still essentially babies. They're still infants in their career. They just started. So of course, they'd be writing the conventional stuff before they can grow as their own artists by writing whatever kind of songs that they feel is for the Beatles or how they would express themselves. But again, it's not to like say that the songs are not mature, but just as a starting, this is too bad. I like this album a lot. I would give this album the rating of a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, shocking, right? Anyway, that's all for today's review. I hope you enjoyed my first ever video on this channel. If you did, subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you next time. Hi, hello. I just wanted to give a short shout out to all the artists that I borrowed their music from, who would be Michael Sokil, Paul Moody 25, Cesar Telez, and Andy Guitar. Thank you so much. If you have time, definitely check out their content. They do great covers of music from different bands, and Andy Guitar does guitar tutorials and covers as well. Mostly tutorials for a lot of your favorite songs if you like guitar.